Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. It's not his area of expertise, but I want to ask Bob about something kind of interesting that happened this week in Butler County. Our conversation with Bob Pollock, brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted Best Personal Injury Law Firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Good morning.
Good morning.
You are not a recognized expert bear wrestler. However, I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Woman in Butler attacked by a bear in the middle of the night last Wednesday night. She took her dog outside in the darkness, and here a bear and its 3 cubs were in her backyard inside a fenced enclosure that they had jumped over. Just a little, like 2.5-foot fence, chicken wire. And so this bear attacked her, seeing it had its cubs with her and saw her as a threat, wanted to get to the dog too, and she suffered some very serious injuries. When we are out in the wild, or even in our own backyards, because this was a residential neighborhood, there's a really good chance that at some point somebody's going to see a bear, and we should be aware of that, and also aware around our homes of not putting anything up that is too tempting for a bear. They love to go after bird feeders, too.
They do. Yeah. And I don't know if she had a bird feeder or not, but they definitely will go after that.
Yeah.
Honeybees are another. Anybody that's a beekeeper usually knows they need to protect, fence their bees in, protect them some way, because it can happen and does happen. And yeah, we need to be aware. I know we think we're safe. A lot of times we have maybe a false sense of safety, or that we're in a neighborhood and nothing will be here. But let alone bears, and especially with cubs, if it would have been by itself, it may not have been that same situation. The scenario would not have happened.
Wouldn't be aggressive.
Correct. It may have just scuttled away and. Which is usually what happens, but if that bear felt any sense of danger with those cubs there, then that's a whole different ball game, and one we want to. They can look pretty nice and fuzzy and cuddly, and but they're wild animals.
Yeah,
and deer usually go away as well, but not always, and extremely common to see that. The other. Wildlife that we can see in our backyards might be at night like that, might be possums or skunks, very common, in residential neighborhoods. It can be extreme, maybe not porcupines so often. That's not
dogs will get
as
into
normal,
porcupines,
right?
Yeah.
And with those smaller animals, well, dogs will tend to alert for any of those wildlife, but. Skunks are one, possums will usually go away. Skunks are one that have a very strong mechanism.
They're rather defensive. Raccoons are too.
Yes, raccoons, and that's another one that we can definitely see in urban residential areas.
Even a groundhog.
When we see raccoons in the daytime, we really need to have our guard up. Because typically they're going to be out at night. And sometimes they can be rabid, so they're infected, and that's when you might tend to see them more often in the daytime, and we want to stay away from that.
Yeah, let's take a caller this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
What can we do for you?
This is a gardening question, not a bear question.
Okay.
Good.
In the old days, they said about the Native Americans planting their garden and using fish to fertilize it with. Is that accurate?
Can she use fish to fertilize her garden?
So the actual fish themselves, that's possible. They probably ate the fish and what was left over. They might have composted, or they might have just worked that into the soil so that would decay, and it would provide some nutrients. So one of the ways that we use fish one of the, feces from fish. They've got to consume things too. So really, we can use fish culture to grow plants, right? Hydroponically, that's somewhat common, and a lot of times they'll do that even in high schools where they have ag programs and commercially too. But you'll raise the fish, you'll use the nutrients that are in the water in the tanks that they raise the fish in to then use as a nutrient solution in hydroponics to feed plants.
So fish do poopy in their water, and
Yes.
we're supposed to use that to fertilize our plants.
Yes, so there's nutrients in there because they're consuming other organisms that have some nutrient value, and so we can use that. That's well known and done.
Are there cultured fish products available that we
Yes,
could use?
and
There
you can
are
get
on the market.
Yes, and sometimes availability might be limited, but yes, we can purchase fertilizers that are usually they come in a liquid form that you can use to fertilize plants. Now it can get a little pricey if you compare prices of the actual nutrient that you're getting in there. But yes, in organic and certified organic culture, yes, they can use fish emulsion
But
as a nutrient source.
the overall nutrient value of just going out and trout fishing and throwing bluegills or anything like that into your garden, not so high. There are other products that are much more highly recommended.
Yes. And is that what you were getting at?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so we can.
I didn't know people still use that or not.
Yes, and it's probably not. There's probably not as many people that do that just with going out and fishing and then using what was left over. But it can be composted like a lot of other things, and then eventually we get to use that, or we can purchase products.
Well,
that
thank
we can
you
use.
for the call. We appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. 479-1160, 349-WCCS. If you are trying to compost animal products like that, there's a good chance something's going to come along, dig it up, and eat it themselves, too.
That's true. There might still be parts of that are still edible by some other wildlife. And that's part of the chain, isn't it? That's all part of the recycling.
In fact, bears will come in.
Yeah. Boy, we're coming around the circle now.
One way or the other, we're going to get the bears work back
We
in
are.
here.
We are.
But they actually will. The bears will be very happy to come and eat your fish.
They are good at eating garbage, Yeah. Garbage cans and dumpsters and,
Yeah.
That's they'll come after that in a hurry.
People are going to be preparing their gardens now very soon, though. They're going to be really starting to work on that dirt out there.
Right, and we've almost, we got that rain the other day, but just before that, we had warm temperatures. The sun was out. We had wind.
Yeah.
So all those conditions are really good to start to get that soil dried out, so that we can do things.
And we're going to have that again next week.
Yeah, and we're early. Things are popping, though. I mean, there's leaves coming out on plants. There's daffodils blooming. So we're early, and as long as we kind of cruise along here like this,
we could get an early start to the season. Is this what you're saying?
Yes. We always need to be prepared, though, and the thought in the back of our head that when's our normal last frost-free date?
Yeah.
That's in May.
I thought it was going to be like June 16th.
Yeah, towards the end of May, usually. But things are changing. We have definitely more fluctuations. So as long as things kind of keep on this keel, it's not too warm, it's not too cold. But we always need to be prepared and thinking about, okay, what if I get these plants out or I get things started? What if we have that 22-degree night? Or even just below freezing. How sensitive are the plants that I'm working with? Some of our native plants, our trees, our shrubs. Red maple is blooming. I've seen forsythia starting to bloom. Daffodils are out, and there's some other things pushing buds.
Yeah, tulips
And
are
open leaves. Tulips are up. So as long as they can come out and develop and get hardened off, a few years back, we had 3 or 4 years back, we had that cold snap, maples, a lot of trees were leafing out.
May 22nd, we had a frost.
Bam.
I remember we were at the Altoona Curve game that night thinking, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It was May 22nd, and it was absolutely freezing cold. So, yeah, we need to be aware of that and have the ability to get out and cover those things up if frost comes.
Right, and a lot of things, trees and shrubs, there's not much if anything, we can do to affect that. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be if those leaves are just coming out and they're still very tender, they can be very sensitive to that freeze. They get frozen off. That's a great stress to those plants. And when that happened a few years back, there were plants that didn't recover from that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you have often said, and especially now is the time to do this, as you're getting your soil ready, a soil test is recommended so you know what you need to do to it in order to make it maximum and optimum for growing.
Yes, and it's not too late to do that. We still have time. If you need to make adjustments, don't assume that things are okay. They can, over time, as we add things, if we don't check and make sure that did it do what it was supposed to do, over time we can get the soil pH so it can become more alkaline or it can become more acidic. We want to have that in a range of usually especially for vegetables, 6.2 to 6.8. If we can keep it in there, then that's the zone we want to be, because the most nutrients are available to those group of plants that need them within that pH range. If we get outside of that, it's not necessarily that they won't grow and survive, but there will be nutrients that won't be available or as available, and there'll be other, especially micronutrients, that can become toxic. When the pH gets too alkaline, then they can become more available to the point where they can be toxic to plants. So we need to check that every few years just to make sure we are where we need to be. If we've been applying, and we've talked before about just the annual application of lime, well, we need to check that over time with a pH meter, doing a soil test, which will come back and give you those results of what the pH level is, so that we can know, do we need to add that or not add that. Check that. Nutrients. Oh, we're out of time.
We're out of time.
Yep. Next time, maybe we can talk about, nutrients, how you purchase, nutrients, and how you can compare products.
We can only talk about that if you remember that, because I'm. It's the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. We are at 7:59, a minute away from 8 o'clock. And Josh is next from the newsroom right after Fox.